Hi, everybody. How you doing out there in Facebook land or Twitter land or wherever else you're at? So, we had an interesting week this week. A little bit of lead up from last week. SJR 101. How many of you are familiar with it? Let's go ahead and bring that up here real quick. I'm going to pull up a banner here, create the banner SJR 101. Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar with it, what SJR 101 is it is an attempt to constitutionalize the inability of the people to use hallucinogenics. Okay, well, one, state constitutions, well, any constitution ultimately is there to limit the government, not the people. So for him to try and institutionalize, yeah, he's trying to use a piece of paper that was designed to limit the government to limit the actions of the people. Right? Absolutely, Dan. This sucks. So Dan and I are both veterans. We both know an incredible number of extremely bright, intelligent individuals who have suffered post-traumatic stress injury over the years, number of things, and absolutely, medical marijuana happens to be one of those that presents one of the best case scenarios for an awful lot of individuals regarding recovery, not just necessarily a post-traumatic stress injury, but other things as well. And ultimately what SJR 101 does is it restricts the ability of veterans to seek this particular inexpensive yet effective form of treatment for post-traumatic stress injury and recovery. Just bad all the way around. Yet somehow C. Scott Grow managed to get the better part. Well, he did. He got 24 of 35. They managed to scrape by the bare minimum. Okay. Haley Glenn, what do you think the odds of passing via ballot? Okay. Right? C. Scott Grow wants to constitutionally limit an herb, homeopathic medicine that can be grown in your backyard. That's what he wants to do. Now, there's reasons for that. A lot of them have to do with profit of pharmaceutical companies. Yes, they do. Law enforcement, if they can't arrest people by by finding drugs on them, that particular option for law enforcement goes away, as well as the prison industry. But let's get back to Haley's question here. Haley. Now, this is an interesting situation with regards to Idaho dynamics right now. Okay. It just barely passed the Senate with roughly 22 sponsors. They managed to get the 2 extra votes that they weren't sure of, just, cross the line. Now, last year, the House and the Senate didn't see eye to eye on an awful lot of things, which left an awful lot of business undone, and members of both the House and Senate dissatisfied because the GOP in both houses couldn't come to terms with each other. So, it could quite possibly die in the House. Am I going to count on that? No, not really. We got a couple of organizations right now in the state. We have Idaho Citizens Coalition for Cannabis. They're currently leading the fight for SJR 101 in association with the Marijuana Policy Project here in the state of Idaho. So we have that. In addition, we have a bipartisan bill in the House right now. There is a sergeant, trying to remember what his name is, but we have a U.S. Air Force veteran who has become the poster child for this particular bill. And he has stage 4 terminal cancer, and he would like the right to try medical marijuana. However, he's being denied that in the state. Now, there is a bipartisan bill in the House right now that's being worked. Both our Democrats and Republicans are working on making sure that he gets the right to try before he dies from stage 4 cancer. Now, his story, very tragic. Most of his cancer was derived from working with radioactive munitions, loading them onto aircraft, so on. Regardless of how you feel about his role in that, you know, he still tried to do the right thing. He signed up 22 years of prestigious service in the United States Air Force. And yeah, his story about how he's gone through cancer treatment is somewhat graphic, just a bit. But it's out there if you're interested in looking for it. Let me see. I think it's Sergeant Kitsap. Yeah, I can't think of how to spell it right offhand, so that's going to be a little bit. But Ilana Rubel with the Idaho Democrats has been working closely with him and his association. Now, there's a couple other small organizations. Kind Idaho is standing up in addition for a medical marijuana ballot initiative. It's the exact same one that Idaho Citizens Coalition ran 2 years ago. They are using the exact same wording from 2 years ago to try and get another medical marijuana initiative passed in the state. Well, it's the same one, so saying another really is sort of beside the point, but they are trying to run it again. And Kind Idaho, let's go ahead. If you are on Facebook, let's go ahead and do that. And if you are interested in donating to them, their PayPal is up and working right now. I'm going to go ahead and include that on the banner link. But Kind Idaho at paypalme.kindidaho, you can donate to them there, is working the ballot initiative. So we actually got a division of labor right now that worked out surprisingly well. Kind Idaho is focusing on the ballot initiative. The bipartisan group in the House that's working with Sergeant Jeremy Kitsap on his right to try bill. And Idaho Citizens Coalition is working on fighting SJR 101. So now, the interesting thing about the ballot initiative or the SJR 101 is it does have to go to the people for a vote. If it passes the House, and the governor doesn't veto it out of hand, which he still could, not likely because Brad Little is very anti-marijuana himself. Whether or not he's willing to see it challenged in the court, I think, because that's another interesting thing is because yeah, there's so much that's so confusing about this. Reason why is because I wasn't aware that the Idaho Constitution provided guidance to our legislators, that our legislators are responsible for the temperance and virtue of our community. Surprisingly, temperance is about moderation and use. not about prohibition, but moderation in use, which means we should be able to use all things in moderation, including alcohol, which ironically is the other sad part about this whole shenanigan thing. Is temperance is used once in our Constitution, and it is actually used twice in Idaho Legislative Code. In both cases where it's used in Idaho Legislative Code, it is because the state of Idaho has taken responsibility for liquor sales. Not liquor prohibition, but liquor sales. So for Scott Grow to come out and use the term temperance for the prohibition of marijuana, when the other places that it's used is the sale, the state sale, the state sponsored sale, the state regulated sale of liquor. Yeah. So give me a moment. You take a few moments here to hit the do not disturb. Yes. That way these little ringers don't keep bothering you guys. So Natalie, you bring up a good point here. So C. Scott Grow is LDS, and the LDS scriptures 10 and again, LDS scripture states 10. And again, verily I say unto you, all wholesome herbs God hath ordained for the constitution, nature, and use of man. Every herb in the season thereof, every fruit in the season thereof, and all these to be used with prudence and thanksgiving. Yeah, it's about money. I think we pretty much all decided it's about money. Whether it's for him or someone else. Yep, bottom line, William. You guys nailed it. That's what we're looking at with regards to that. Now, there's a couple different reasons why. We have at least one senator who's voting against this, who has security contracts providing closed circuit television for dispensaries in Ontario and Huntington. He'll be voting against the bill. Or he'll be voting for SJR1 against marijuana in the state of Idaho, because he's continuing to reap profits from the security contract in Ontario. We have a number of other individuals involved. Believe it or not, C. Scott Grow actually has family who are cannabis farmers in Oregon. Yes. Idaho Citizens Coalition was nice enough to dig up that particular story. In addition to that, we continue to see a number of our legislators that are heavily invested in pharmaceutical companies, in the prison industry, in the legal industry, law enforcement. Some of them are even lawyers. A lawyer over in Nampa, who's also a state legislature, it happens to do particularly well in getting people in Canyon County off of drug charges. Yeah, so there's money in that. There's an awful lot of money that several of our legislators stand to lose if we ever do successfully decriminalize marijuana in the state of Idaho. Now, some of you can go back and you take a look at the testimony. I actually recorded the significant portions of it this morning, and you'll see it posted in some of my other threads. So you can go back and look at that. Yeah. Here's an interesting thing for you, William. I did a little bit of number crunching. So there are roughly 422 million residents of the state of Oregon. State of Oregon estimates that approximately 10 to 11% of their people use marijuana in some capacity. 3% are medical, the other 8% are recreational. Admittedly, an awful lot of recreational users are using it in self-medication, self-treatment, same way we use alcohol in a lot of cases. You know, kill the pain, you know, kill the demons inside us, you know, so that we can continue to survive and exist another day. So even that 8% who use it recreationally, significant number of them probably need it to stay not psychotic. That's one of the beautiful things about legalized and control in the state of Oregon is you can count on consistency. You don't have to worry about whether or not you know, the drug is going to be laced or tainted or otherwise of poor quality, because it's being sold from a dispensary with a chain of custody from origin to point of sale. You know, but okay, 11%. Now they did $1 billion in sales for roughly 42 million customers. Ontario, Oregon, just across the street, Malheur County. Malheur County has 11,000 residents. 11,000. That 11,000 was responsible for 10% of that $1 billion in marijuana sales in the state of Oregon last year. 100 million. I know 11,000 people did not buy $100 million worth of marijuana from Ontario dispensaries last year. They didn't. But what that amounts to is roughly 40,000 residents of the Treasure Valley. It's the greater Boise metro area. Boise, Meridian, Nampa, Caldwell, Eagle. Yes, Eagle. 40,000 residents, roughly 5% of the greater Boise metro area, drove across that border over the last year, spent roughly $2,500 a piece. That's $100 million. Okay. Now, mind you, that 5% is the ones who were willing to take the risk of an interstate felony to right. How many runs across the border is that? Yeah, $100 million worth of runs across the border. Anyway, so the point is 5% of the Treasure Valley took the risk of federal interstate drug trafficking violations, with Ontario police reporting license plates. Yes, they were reporting license plates to the Idaho State Police. Yeah. Folks, our Idaho State prisons, we're already beyond capacity. You know, we got 10,000 prisoners for 8,000 beds. 2,000 of our drug offenders are actually shipped to for-profit prisons down in Texas and Arizona right now. Could you imagine if the Idaho State Police, Canyon County, and Ada County arrested all 40,000 owners of the unique license plates that parked themselves in a dispensary parking lot just across state lines when they came back? Dude, let's face it. Marijuana is decriminalized in the state of Idaho. It is. 40,000 people drive across the border, get their marijuana, drive right back across. 40,000. It's selectively enforced. We have something like 54 veterans that were arrested this last year going across the border and coming back. It's 54 veterans. It wasn't 40,000 residents of the Treasure Valley. Selective enforcement. I don't know what the Idaho State Police uses to determine who they're going to stop, who they're going to search, who they're going to bring the drug dogs along for. Yeah, William, Utah, other state cars. Yeah. More Idaho than any other states. Absolutely. Well, you're not going to get an argument from me. However, Idaho does need to walk before it crawls. I mean, crawl before it walks. Something like that. And one of those ways is medical. That gives relief for those who need it now. Means they won't have to drive across the border to get it. The nice thing about it, Idaho State, the code that we have written for Idaho, for the ballot initiative that Kind Idaho is currently working on, specifically states that Idaho law enforcement will not harass or ask medical marijuana card holders in the state of Idaho to surrender their weapons. Hey, yeah, we still got to fight the feds on that issue, but you don't have to worry about Idaho State Police coming to try and take your guns. You got to wait for the ATF to show up. But yeah, all drugs. Yep, we start with medical. You know, people who want to still use, 11% of people in the state of Oregon are using. We're tracking about 5% of the Treasure Valley, which is roughly 5% of the state, considering most of the state can go across the border. We're tracking roughly 5% of the state that goes across the border and comes back with their stuff. And then they turn around and come back. Now, that's the 5% that are actually willing to cross the border. I figure we got at least another 5% that buy all their stuff in state. They buy the skunk weed, buy the home grow, they buy whatever the local dealer is willing to find and sell to them. We got cartels here. We got gangs. We have bikers. We have meth on the street. We have enough heroin on the street that we have methadone clinics. We actually have, 5 methadone clinics here in the Treasure Valley. It's an awful lot of people to keep off heroin. So one of the things our Fraternal Order of Police actually like to complain about is the amount of Narcan they have to use to go in and, oh yeah, Natalie, that's a big one. We'll get to that. Use the Narcan for all of the fentanyl-laced heroin and opiates that they have to respond to. Yeah, to be fair, some of the dealers here in the state have laced their marijuana with fentanyl too. Got people dying thinking they're smoking marijuana when they're smoking fentanyl. Yeah. Legalize it, regulate it, control it, make sure we have quality coming across the border. Make sure the market corrects itself, and making sure that those who poison people against their will, lacing something with fentanyl, come on, man. That's not quality control, folks. Anyway, it's another issue. Opiates. We use medical marijuana to get people off of opiates. It's an alternative pain relief. Less addictive, less likely to cause a fatal side effect. Yeah. Anyway, so Natalie, single mom of 4 gets 4 years in jail. Her children go to foster care or adopted out. The state pays each child until they reach 18 years of age. How much does the state pay for 4 years of incarceration? The children's foster care and daycare and Medicaid. State pays until they're 18, even after they are adopted. Okay, it's an industry based on a punitive mindset. Rehab costs less than vengeance. How close to $1 million does the full bill become? Okay. This is the foster cartel that does exist within the Child Protection Services of the Department of Human Services. Family Services. Okay. Now, the irony is, some of us who are familiar with drug users, addicts, particularly heroin addicts, okay, we've seen them be reported time and time again. Child Protective Services shows up, does an investigation, turns around and leaves. Somebody gets arrested for marijuana. Oh, CPS is all over that. I don't know what it is about the market for children, especially the state-sanctioned and enabled foster care cartel. But children of marijuana users are definitely more highly sought after than children of cocaine and heroin users and meth users. I don't know whether it's just because those kids are more pleasant and easy to get along with. His mom and dad aren't abusive because they're not on meth or on heroin or any of the other things. But yeah, no, Child Protective Services really love parents that are on marijuana. Not so much parents that are on heroin. The foster care cartel. Yeah, it does exist, folks. It does exist. Okay, now let's be fair. There are good people who work in foster care. There are good people who work in Child Protective Services and Department of Human Services. There are a lot of people who joined those organizations because they believed in what it was they were told the mission of the organization was. Okay. A lot of good people working in those organizations. A lot. That doesn't change the fact that it is a bureaucracy and it's loaded with corruption, and it's really, really difficult to root out the corrupt and the evil in any bureaucracy. So when it comes to state-sponsored violence, state-enabled violence, one of the things we need to do is we need to eliminate the ability of these organizations to simply say, oh, you use marijuana, you're going to prison for 4 years. We need to eliminate that ability. The reason why is because it's selectively enforced. It's selectively used. It is used to target poor people. It is used to, enforce the laws arbitrarily. Okay? If the justice isn't the same for everybody, there is no justice. Plain and simple. If the justice is not the same for everyone, it's not justice. 40,000 people drive across the state borders every year in order to buy marijuana and drive back with it, whether it is in the form of edibles, vapes, oils, or bud or flower. We are not arresting 40,000 people a year at the state border who come back from those dispensaries. We aren't, which means it's being selectively enforced. That is not justice. It's a good question because it's been a rough ride there, Hero. Been a real rough ride. Spent a lot of time in the military, did 4 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. Came back very disgruntled. Some might even consider it, what is it? The whole conscience thing, the crimes of conscience or whatever, violation of conscience. It's an interesting term for a variation of post-traumatic stress injury. Won't get too much into it, but I voted Democrat. I voted Republican in that time. I actually voted for Obama before I separated from the military. Turned around and came back. I was actually green before I became a libertarian because I was looking for a peace movement. I was looking for an organization. But the thing is a lot of the minor parties, a lot of the third parties, we all have a lot of the same core beliefs. We believe in the decriminalization of drugs because we believe the state currently uses them in an authoritarian way to selectively enforce and hand pick the criminals for the prison slave farms. Yeah. But Idaho, closest I get to my real ideal, Libertarian Party, which it's pretty big. It's pretty big. About 90% on board with the Libertarian platform. Got a few issues on the environmental front, but for the most part, yeah. William, yeah. Hunter, 1981 to 2005, without the system. Well, when you're part of a community that trusts you to step in and take care of their kids for them, that works, William. Matter of fact, that's sort of what we need to get back to, because as long as the state continues to empower child abduction via child protection services over victimless crimes, we're going to continue to have problems. Tax-sponsored slave labor or for private prisons. That's interesting because it's not necessarily just limited to private prisons, public prisons too. Our good governor, Brad Little. Let's take a look at what he did this last summer during the COVID while we were having problems with the supply chain. Governor Brad Little promised that the prison farms would fill Idaho food banks. Sit on that one for a little bit, folks. Sit on that one for a little bit. Mary, how you doing? We're working it, William. We're working it. So, you guys, Kind Idaho, again, it's the ballot initiative. 4 years ago, Reclaim Idaho did an outstanding job. They went out and they managed to get enough people to support. Roughly 70% of Idahoans supported the Medicaid expansion at the ballot. And this last time, I think we had like 55% of the people that supported the constitutional amendment that specified 35 districts in perpetuity in the state of Idaho. So when it comes to this election, we already know 72% of Idahoans, perhaps more by now, because that's a 2-year-old poll, 72% of Idahoans support medical marijuana in the state of Idaho. They do. And as long as that 72% of Idahoans show up at the ballot, and cast their vote in favor of the Idaho Medical Marijuana Act 2022, it's being handled by Kind Idaho. And Kind Idaho is a listed political action committee with the Secretary of State. It is subject to all of the sunshine laws. They have to report all of the money that comes in. They have to report all of the money that goes out. So once a month, their treasurer has to submit paperwork saying how much they made, who donated, and where the money was spent. So if you don't like the way Kind Idaho is doing business, less than a month, you can call them up and say, hey, I don't like the fact that you're paying signature collectors, or I don't like the fact that, you're spending too much money in gas driving all over the state, or, whatever else you object to the way Kind Idaho spends the money in order to make sure that the organization is built and supported in a positive and professional way. But, sunshine laws, they got to report on that every month. So that's going to be a good. Make rain, working it. I think we can do better than Amash Gabbard. I really think we can. But yeah. So, Kind Idaho, if you can, support them. Throw them some money. They're going to be kicking off their big launch here in just a little under 2 weeks. I think President's Day, they got a big gig that they got planned. But throw them some money, help them out. And yeah, you send them that PayPal, you're going to be on the list of donors that has to get reported to the Secretary of State once a month. Sorry, just the way it is. But it's a good list to be on, man. It's a good list to be on. I'm already into it for $5. But yeah, good stuff. So Kind Idaho, they're working the ballot initiative, Idaho Citizens Coalition for Cannabis. They're working the fight against SJR. Marijuana Policy Project has people from Washington here helping Idaho Citizens Coalition, providing guidance and helping work with some of our local organizations. Meg Rome, she's been doing some good work with nurses for marijuana legalization. Not sure what the name exactly of her organization is, but she's also been the one working with Sergeant Jeremy Kitsap and our bipartisan group in the Idaho State House on getting his right to try bill, which if SJR 101 passes, goes away. Yeah. So I've been rambling here for about 40 minutes on legalization in the state of Idaho. Appreciate all you guys who tuned in. Kind Idaho, yeah, I'm going to be pitching them quite a bit because I really want to see this ballot initiative succeed this year. Jackie has family right now who is dealing with brain cancer. We got people like Sergeant Jeremy Kitsap, stage 4 terminal cancer. We got mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers all across the Treasure Valley that are using high THC CBD oils for pain management, treatment of Alzheimer's, treatment of glaucoma, a number of these things which we will never, ever, ever get a $500 million clinical trial prepared for that the FDA will approve. Because there's no money, because you can't patent a plant, folks. You can't patent a plant. So support these guys. Let's make it happen. Let's make SJR 101 go away. Let's make compassionate care in the state of Idaho a thing. Kind Idaho, folks. Meantime, family, friends, community. As long as you got those 3 things, you can make anything happen. Love you guys.